We're recording.
Hey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to She Blaze.
Welcome back.
For sure. We're blazing season 2. So here we are to kick off the new episode, right?
I know it's already season 2, Ice.
Wow. We doing a little something. You look super tropical, super summer. You trying to have your hot girl summer. Over there. I see you. Where you at right now? We're good.
I am in Phoenix. I'm live from Phoenix, and I'm just excited because, well, my favorite part about being an entrepreneur is deciding when I'm in the office. And as you already know, because I work all the time, I'm in the office all the time. But this week, I'm in the office in 100+ degree weather, sitting in the poolside workspace, get to work out and do my work there. So just, living the entrepreneur's life of work-life integration. Fully.
I feel you. I'm all about the work-life integration or trying to figure out what that looks like for 20-something millennial.
You good? I think you're doing good.
You know what I'm saying? Not too shabby myself. I'm currently.
Yes, no, I'm just kidding.
I'll just let you get those bragging rights already. Go ahead, take them. Yeah, so I'm in Las Vegas actually, counting down to my birthday. So
wow, yes, she grown. She grown.
She is grown. She boss lady officially, not boss girl, boss lady now.
Boss lady. Okay, so is she ready for season 2 of She Blaze?
She is ready for season 2. Yes, we are. So let's kick it off with some juicy hot topics, okay? Because exactly. And we're about to go across the sea and take it international, honey, because Thailand is making some moves with medical marijuana. Now, yes. So we found out that Thailand just released its first medical marijuana batch to hospital patients. I mean, people are getting medical marijuana in their hospital, and they're not just smoking it, they're getting oil, THC oil.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I read that as well, because the U.S. is so behind. And, a lot of people don't know that, I suffer from my own autoimmune issues, but then we have some current family issues going on where someone has a traumatic brain injury and cannabis is not something available to them. But in Thailand, which we oftentimes as Americans think of as like this third world country in some ways or so behind, they've figured it out already. And they're not just giving like a couple of bottles away. When we read it was over 4,000, nearly 5,000 bottles, and they're looking to give nearly 1 million in the next 4 to 5 months, which is crazy, and just progress, right? Like, so hats off to Thailand for actually doing the right thing for the patients in their country. I'm really impressed, actually.
I'm definitely impressed. I can't wait to visit and see what it's like in person. They have some pictures with the article. It's out of Physicians Weekly, so it has some pictures with some articles, and it was just great. I can't wait to visit, and it's part of their urgent agenda. And there's a lot of international cannabis news at the moment, and it's real hot. Can we talk about, yes girl, I love getting the hot tea, especially about business, okay? Yes. So CannaTrust, which is a cannabis Canadian company, was flagged for not the first time, but the second time for regulatory breaches. And a part of the regulatory breaches is them overdoing too many marijuana plants. They don't know how many plants they get per license. So that was a big flag, and they had some security issues with controls, and they were adding other construction, so they were still building when the Canna Health came to
inspect it.
Basically, the Health Canada, that's what they're called, Health Canada.
Yeah. So Health Canada is the agency that oversees all of the country's medical marijuana licensing and regulation. And this does not bode well for this company's stock. I mean, it's gone down over 30% over the last few months. And that's really as a result of, this is not the first violation. This is actually the second. And, to be honest, when you're not counting your plants correctly in a seed to sale tracked industry, it usually means something is probably happening that's a little bit gray. I'm not going all the way on blast, but we know from working in the California market that a lot of legitimate companies are also struggling on like having too much cannabis for what the market entails, and they wind up also doing gray area transactions as well. So I wonder if Canada is struggling with a bit of that. But the last thing I would say is there are a lot of people who are looking at the Canadian stock market for their investments. And so just tread a little bit lightly, because the valuations are already a little bit suspect. You got a lot of companies that don't even have sales yet on the books, that are essentially inflating their valuation based on how much money they've raised and the management team. But in the case of this large company that's publicly traded, it really is about just understanding that most people getting into the cannabis space really don't know what the hell they're doing, right? Like that's what we've been doing the last 3 years, 3.5 years now, is, being that management consultant. And most of these folks have the money. They maybe even have some corporate experience, but this is like beyond their wildest dreams of how much innovation is actually in the space. So it's just been, we got to tread lightly. It's been a little bit insane, and we expect Canada to be leading the way. So I definitely want to hear, keep tabs on this, and hopefully hear that there are some improvements in the way things are operating.
That's for sure. And, we're seeing this, breaches international, but also national, as we are coming across CBD being the newfound super vitamin that we've been preaching about for the last 3 years. More people are getting interested. More people are trying it. So more cannabis companies, and because CBD is still cannabis, it just doesn't get you high. So with the approval of the hemp bill, they're getting looked at, and they're getting looked at with a fine-tooth comb from the FDA. And the Food Drug Administration, that gang don't play. So they are sending out cease and desist. They're sending out, fines to CBD companies that are putting on their packaging and their digital marketing and any other way they're communicating to consumers. Unfound claims need to stop.
Yes. So this is not something that's unusual for the FDA. They tightly control claims in general. You have to go through a FDA approved trial for some time period. It costs upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 just to do that trial in order for you to get an FDA approved claim that's viable for your packaging. Right now, there's only one FDA approved drug on the market, and that's GW Pharma. So yes, a pharmaceutical company that has made a CBD drug called Epidiolex. And, the reality is that, people are very excited about federal legalization. Don't get me wrong, I am as well, but I'm also a little weary about it, because I know what will happen is now you'll have federal entities like FDA and their muscle, which is the DEA, now turning its eye to companies that have been leading the way within the cannabis space, whether it is Charlotte's Web or Curaleaf, which just got the most recent round of cease and desist letters from the FDA. These companies actually lead our industry on best practices. And one, it should teach them that, hey, the FDA is nothing to play with. Follow what's going on in the nutraceutical market or in the cosmetic market. You can't make those claims. However, I also think we have to continue to fight for our ability to be in the industry. FDA is putting already in place certain things that, to me, if you look at the tea leaves, say that should this finally legalize marijuana, they're going to try to control the whole plant. And just to be clear, CBD is just a molecule, one molecule of which there are hundreds and thousands of molecules in the full plant. And right now, I think we focus on THC, the one that makes you get the euphoric feeling of being high, and CBD, because everybody wants to say, oh, that's the medicine. The whole plant is the medicine. And so I'm just concerned as an advocate, as a patient, that the federal government is going to start to make these kind of I guess, threats, and right now they're thinly veiled with the cease and desist. But basically, that means you have to remove all your product off the shelves. Right now, they're focused on ingestibles, which is essentially a large part of the CBD market. When you think of gel capsules, gummy bears, in the New York City market, the Department of Health basically said you can't put it in food. It's insane how much they're trying to impact, when in reality, CBD really is such an overwhelming help to our bodies. I would hope that they would be expediting research. But for anybody in the industry trying to start a CBD company, definitely stay away from the obvious, which are claims on your packaging, on your website, and do your best to describe the general benefits of your product without making it sound like it's resolving a disease. Yeah. Do not also, just my last little tip, don't forget the FDA disclaimer on your packaging, which basically says that the FDA has not found any of those claims or anything on your packaging to be true, because you have not done that approval process yet.
Yeah, I think that is a really hot jewel that you drop for people that cost, $250 an hour. So they're lucky that they're listening to She Blaze and we're having an opportunity to drop jewels on them. They're also testing products. Testing is such a big deal, and they're testing products, and the testing and the packaging are just not matching. So, packaging is so important. I'm definitely excited that season 2 is back up, because we will definitely talk more about packaging. We'll bring some examples, point out some things, and really show people what we're talking about, because, it's easy to say, but it's helpful to have a little visualization. And there's so many companies that's getting into the cannabis industry through, wanting CBD, but also wanting actual THC infused things as well. We actually just heard hot off the press, and Arizona Beverages are partnering with Dixie Brands that could create THC-fused gummies and drinks. So that's pretty exciting. And as we all know, Arizona is a hood staple, okay? Can you tell us any more hood staples that may be entering the cannabis industry?
Well, I actually did not like Arizona too much, but if you like sweet tea, that is definitely what they was drinking in East New York, Brooklyn, where I am from. But yes, speaking of Brooklyn, the hottest tea has been that Jay-Z has jumped into the cannabis industry officially, and hip hop in general has started to really see a takeoff within the industry. When we first started, yes, you had your Khalifa Kush, yes, you have Snoop, right? So Snoop and Wiz were pretty prominent. You're also going to see Redman and Method Man every once in a while, because you can't make a movie like How High, that literally is the foundation of the 90s weed culture, without being referenced at times. But as the cannabis industry starts to mature, it has been interesting to try to figure out, how is hip hop, the mature hip hop, going to be really involved. And Jay-Z's move to Khalifa as the chief brand strategist is just one of the types of moves we're expecting to see in the cannabis space. And don't get me wrong, it's highly controversial, which, we could kick the ballistics on it for a little bit right now, but
girl,
whole nother episode, just FYI, of why it's controversial. But let's just say I'll leave it with this. I tweeted that I could name at least 10 other companies with people of color in charge, or within even just the executive team, because Khalifa has an all-white male executive team, which is, quite frankly, the majority of these large companies, and a problem within the industry. But yeah, Jay-Z, I don't know, I'm happy he's in it, and I'm definitely like, yo, get your paper. But when are we as people of color going to come in with our billionaires, our millionaires, the wealthy people of color coming in to support those of us that are on the ground doing the work? And I'm not necessarily talking about us, because we don't touch the plant, right? No. But we definitely know about at least 10 companies that real talk, with that type of support from a Jay-Z, could outpace Khalifa in 6 to 12 months easily. To be honest, Jay-Z could have started his own company and outpace Khalifa 6 to 12 months.
For that's so like real facts, and I think it's a hard pill to swallow. I've been on my social media ranting about just what happens when we have our millionaires and our billionaires enter into any industry really, and they're the only or the token and they enjoy it. And so what does that mean for our community? But in the cannabis industry, we're not taking that because they've locked up too many of our brothers, mothers, sisters, cousins, aunties, and uncles to even be okay with locking people out. I'm very interested as what chief brand strategist means really. I'm interested. Right. I'm interested because I want to see what is this real social equity. And just to be clear, people, there was Rock Nation has been looking at the cannabis industry for at least 3 years, right?
Yes. We've done some things. Without putting everyone all the way on blast, here's what I will say. My biggest concern is that once again, just as people of color, we don't dig deeper and scrutinize. People are like, oh, let Jay get his paper. This is chess, not checkers. Trust me, I know. I am a business strategist. And that's why I'm like, yo, Jay got paper. And the way the industry is, if you really are paying attention, he really didn't need to join forces with any company. And so if he is, there is a specific reason. Maybe he felt like this was a platform, and he has talked about giving jobs back to the communities. But I want more than jobs. This is more about really restoration of those communities, but also equity, which means ownership. And I think some of these larger corporations absolutely can support that agenda. But I'm just curious, to your point, how Jay intends to roll this out. A lot of people are hoping for that trickle down effect, and that's what makes me sad about sometimes Black folks and our celebrities. We're like, oh well, let him get his paper because look what he's done for the community. We'll get the trickle down effect. Yes, bravo. However, can we be more impactful by directly partnering with and investing in the people who are already on the ground doing the work? And since we have such a large can of fam across the country and globally, we could probably point Jay-Z to a few. If he's looking for a management consultant who will better help him make investments in the cannabis space, I can raise my hand for that all day. I think at the end of the day, we will watch and see, but we should be scrutinizing the moves because the industry can't afford, as quickly as it is moving, and our communities can't afford for us not to be scrutinizing out the door. Up until this point, 20-something years of being legalized in California, we have never once demanded that more than money be the requisite or the prerequisite for someone to join the industry. I think it's time for us to look at really people's mission and purpose. And if their intention is not to serve the community in some way, then I'm not sure that they belong in the industry. And in truth, they're not going to succeed because the community is the consumer base too. So,
and it's a culture-based community. It's not something that we found on the internet or through media. This has been a community that's been around since before our mothers' mothers. You know what I'm saying? The culture is deeply embedded, and as we're trying to change the face of it, it helps, but then it also hurts. So I am curious definitely to see what's going on. I'm interested in some of the ballistics of his other companies and check some stats, seeing what's his diversity quota for all the other companies he works for. And then I think we'll get our answer to what's his real goal with Khalifa. I don't think we tried their flower. Maybe you have. I know I didn't try their flower. But all California flower kind of looks the same to me. But the first stop, if any of his people is listening, the first stop is when you join these organizations and you really want to make a social impact, which is what you said in your PR media, join some minorities associations. That's how it's.
Khalifa's definitely not a member of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. Last I checked, it's also not a member of Minority Cannabis Business Association. Both are needed in the industry. And the truth is, if that's not the first move that's happening, then you have to question, you have to wonder again, are you really trying to capitalize on the movement that's happening in the industry already, or are you just on some other stuff with them? Again, my fingers are crossed. I am Brooklyn born, so I try my best to support those. And he's a true rags to riches story for Brooklyn. But, you know, we got to remember also where Jay-Z came from and the type of rags that he had to initially deal with. And sometimes when you make those type of choices, it never leaves you, no matter how much you try to be a good person. So I'll leave it at that. I know it was a little shade, just a little shade, but the truth is I'm confused, and I'm more so wanting to be vocal about what I feel like as a business strategist, there could have been other avenues. That's
other avenues, but we're also leaving helpful tips to show the you know, the Black community that actually work within the cannabis industry every day, that doesn't even make up 5%, to show us what you really want to do when you jump into this industry. And it kind of just brings me to, you know, just media in general and cannabis outlet media. You know, a lot of companies is going to Q4, so we're moving to the end of the year, and we're getting a whole bunch of top 100, top 50, top this, top that groups. I am just like, you know, when I'm looking at these lists, I'm just like, where are the Black owned and operated companies? You know, and I'm just feeling like, you know, as an African American, as a minority, I also think there were no Hispanic owned companies either. So, you know, we are just missing we're literally missing the boat. We're missing the ship. We're missing the wagon. We're missing it. And how do you, as, you know, business strategist, the WeedHead, you know, number 3 SEO, how do you really help us get visual?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think it starts with telling an authentic story. At the end of the day, you know, we put ourselves on Front Street. It is not something I wanted to do at the start, but I created the WeedHead because I wanted to share my story as a corporate to cannabis crossover. My story eventually became a larger story, your story, all of our sister story, and then the WeedHead and company story. And I think at the end of the day, part of the reason also why we do She Blazes, so that folks can see what it's like to be in the industry and feel encouraged and feel empowered to bring their skills into the industry authentically. We do a lot, or we've seen a lot of people try to reinvent themselves. And that's also challenging because that's not always legitimate, right? And so I would encourage folks to submit yourselves for legitimate businesses that are doing the positive things within the industry that are required to grow the industry, ultimately to stabilize the industry, and of course to diversify it. And I think that's been our mission from the beginning, and it's always exciting to kind of take other folks on the journey, and it's part of why I wrote the books, to be honest. How to succeed in the cannabis industry really came from the fact that so many people asked me, well, what was I doing? Well, I definitely wasn't trying to open a dispensary or a cultivation, although more power to you if that's what you want to do. And I do speak to some of that, but there's just so many areas in the industry, and we can run a lot faster if we go after areas that are the white space, right? That's what I had to do in corporate America, is like I gotta identify that white space and then devise a strategy or a plan in which to go after it. And so what I outline in the book is really about how do people who are professionals, entrepreneurs, contractors already working in mainstream get to utilize those skills in the cannabis industry. And I think most people are really surprised that it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. And we need it too. That's the only way the industry is going to do better. And that's our fighting chance, in my opinion, to deal with Goliath companies coming in with large amounts of money that are, you know, again, not very knowledgeable. They're throwing money at it. You can slowly but surely gain traction by being a specialty within the industry and focusing very much on that niche.
I know that's right. Well, they don't even know all the behind the scenes consumer things you've done for this country and really this world, okay? And I could go bragging and throwing a list down. So if you want to know, you know, DM me or whatever. But, you know, the WeedHead is great and the WeedHead is global. So please tell us, where in the world will the WeedHead be?
Oh, yes. You know what? I always hate doing this segment because I still feel like you know my schedule better than I know my schedule. But coming up, I am positive, like, I'm headed to Atlanta, which is exciting because that is like our second home. We got mommy and grandma there too, and always good to kind of feel that spirit when I'm in town. But I'm there for the pot and pancakes brunch that is being brought to you by the Cannapreneur, and I'm very excited excited to be partnering with Vincent. So you can hit our link tree, which is a / the Cannabis CEO, in order for you to get to all of the various events that we got going up. September's about to be real lit, right? We got mainstream events coming up. I'm going to the Cannabis Science Conference, so I'm just attending and just very excited just how it's grown. Shout out to Josh Crosney, my boy. I don't know. I live for him in terms of his energy for this space. And it's always a great time and always a great show and always real science, right? So that's the beginning of the month in September in Portland, Oregon. And then we are slowly but surely working our way back to DC, back to the other side of the country where we'll be at the Congressional Black Caucus again. Last year,
2 years.
Yes, 2 years in a row. Shout out. Last year we were the first cannabis company to ever exhibit. And this year I got invited to be a part of the Author Pavilion, and I will be doing a book signing from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Thursday, September 14th. 13th. I think it's 13th. We checked the link tree for that as well. It's actually free to go into the exhibit hall. So this is not an area that you have to pay for to go to. And so if you're in the DC, DMV area and you want to learn about cannabis, I will be one of the only authors that will be talking about cannabis there. And what else is going on, Ice?
Well, you forgot the most important day of the month, my birthday. So you know we about to turn Las Vegas upside down. My birthday is August 28th, but I always celebrate on Labor Day weekend. So we about to get litty titties because, you know, I'm in Las Vegas. So it's really exciting. I actually have some things that I've been working on that, you know, I will share with the world shortly, but it's not quite official, so I can't just share just yet. But I got a lot that I'm working on in Las Vegas. And then, yeah, I'll be meeting you there in September. So where in the world WeedHead? We're everywhere. But if you want to find us digitally, I'm Ice Dawson, Cannabis Socialite. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Social Club, Bunker. I'm on every social app. And if they want to find you,
well, I'm, of course, the Cannabis CEO on Instagram and Twitter. And then globally, the WeedHead, you can Google it. We'll come up, the WeedHead and Company. And yeah, I mean, we are just excited for season 2. I hope you guys join us next week. I can't wait to spill the tea. And I don't think we're going to be in the same city again. I think I'm in Atlanta.
On August 28th, no, you're not. You're gonna be back here. You promised me that you was gonna come here and spend the week with me and hang out.
We about to turn up, and if I look haggard by the end of the week, you know why. I blame the girl.
Well, it's birthday. It's my birthday, Las Vegas. You know, you already know it's gonna be what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Let's just say that. All right, you guys. So we're signing off. See you on the next episode.